Hi there, Dan Sanchez with DanSanchezRealEstate.com and Coldwell Banker Danforth Associates. So today, another quick video, we're going to talk about earnest money and the two main reasons why the buyer might get that back. So the earnest money is an amount of money that simply shows how earnest you are in buying the property. It makes the seller feel good, and remember, the key is to exude confidence to the seller. I like to think typically that 2% is the difference between a good earnest money and not good earnest money. So on $500,000, I'd want to see at least $10,000 earnest money. $15,000 would be better. 3% is really what I prefer. I think it shows a lot of confidence to the seller. Now, there are two main reasons why the buyer would get that back. The buyer would typically have an inspection contingency unless they pre-inspected the property and did not include an inspection contingency. But in a normal market, you would have an inspection contingency and a finance contingency. Now, the inspection contingency is sometimes called a walk-away clause by some people because to get your earnest money back and decide not to move forward with the property, you simply check a box that says you're not going to buy the property, essentially. Now, hopefully, that's not going to happen. Hopefully, you would be more serious, having gone that far down the road, and you would be using your inspection contingency simply to find out if the property is what you expected it to be. The inspector is going to spend about 3 hours at the house. I always recommend that the buyer goes. I'm always there as well. And that inspector will typically even tell you if they find a loose screw somewhere. They'll be in the attic, they'll be in the crawl space, 3 hours, even at a smaller house. They'll give you a big report with everything wrong and everything, hopefully, that's good. And then you decide if you're going to move forward. You could decide that you want some repairs from the seller. You could decide that a price decrease is warranted based on the nature of whatever work needs to be done, if that's the case. Now, you may simply decide that you don't want to buy the property anymore because there's too much wrong with it, let's say. Well, you check that box, says you don't want to move forward, you get your earnest money back, move on with your life. Now, if you do decide to move forward, you work out whatever repairs are necessary, if that's the case, then you still have a finance contingency. Now, the finance contingency, that's where the appraisal comes in. So let's say the property doesn't appraise to $500,000. We'll use that example, $475,000, say. You don't have to buy the property now. Now, the seller could lower the price to $475,000, but if he doesn't, you don't have to buy it. You could, spend the extra $25,000 if you had that laying around and pay the difference, but you no longer have to buy the property. Now, another thing that could happen is you could lose your job. The bank could just change their mind. I can't imagine that happening, but the bank goes out of business, something happens. Then you don't have to buy the property if the bank doesn't give you the financing, and then you get your earnest money back. Now, that's only if it's through no fault of your own. So through no fault of your own, you're not able to get financing, you also get your earnest money back. And now, this is why sellers want those two items removed if at all possible. This is why a lot of times sellers, if they have a bid review date, they have multiple offers, they will typically only look at the offers that have no inspection contingency. Hopefully the buyers will have conducted their own pre-inspection. And preferably they prefer no finance contingency, or at least the sellers might ask you to waive the appraisal aspect of it. There's different ways to do that. Don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you very much.